Vietnam. They shut off all economic assistance to South Vietnam, and by April of 1975, the war is over.
Hmm.
The North Vietnamese have invaded, conquered the South Vietnam, and unified the country under communist rule.
I think I got a better history lesson just now than I got in all of high school.
Well, yeah, because you didn't have me for history, of course.
I definitely did not.
There you go.
So you get back from the war. Where does your career path take you from there?
Well, I had originally thought that when I was in college, I was going to be an entrepreneur, like my grandson has talked about. But the war affected me, and I determined that I wanted to go into public service of some kind. And I did an objective analysis. By that time, I was old enough to do an objective analysis of myself. And I decided that I wanted to become a public school teacher, a high school teacher, and then also a wrestling coach and coach young lads. And I thought I had something to offer in that area. And so that's the field I went into. And I am proud to say that I coached public high school history, economics, government for 43 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
Well, I actually, all right, full disclosure, I taught 1 year 43 times.
Same course. My wife's been volunteering, not volunteering because they're paying, I guess, substitute teaching down at Smith Valley here. Mm-hmm. And she never had any aspiration to do that, but there was a need. She had the time. She was a stay-at-home mom. And I did not realize the reward of being a teacher across the board until she started coming home, talking about the classes that she substituted for, the kids, the personalities, and all the way down to her bringing home the apple, right? Mm-hmm. And just the smile on her face and learning about her days. I have a completely different appreciation for teachers. I wasn't a great student, and I only spent a little bit of time in college. But watching her come home, I can only imagine what 43 years must have been like for you.
Well, I had a wonderful experience, and of course, the young students that I grew closest to were my athletes, because I had spent the most time with them rather than an hour a day or 5 hours a week. I spent hours and hours and hours over the week, throughout the entire year that they were in high school, the years that they were in high school with the athletes, and so I'm still very close to many of them. Still very close after all these years.
Yeah, it must be something special to look back, especially the ones that you're close with, to how they've progressed through life, where their successes are, their families, what they've grown to become as adults, maybe some disappointments.
Well, yeah, I do have one former wrestler and student who is serving life prison in the Illinois Correctional Authorities for murder, but that's not one of my. But I had young men go on, become All-Americans and national champions in wrestling in college, and become coaches in high school and college. And scary thought, some of them are actually retired now.
Wow.
They're retired. So been very good. And then I retired from teaching in 2009, and then I began another career.
Which was?
I've been involved in the political arena as a different form of service.
So you said 2009.
That is correct.
What was the inspiration to get involved with politics? Obviously, it seems clear because you were teaching history and all these other things, and of course, the maturity level that you had. But was there a spark that said, I need to get involved?
Well, I taught government for over 40 years, and I tried throughout my entire career to teach young people, that politics is an honorable profession that is vitally necessary. And, to be called a politician sometimes ranks you a little bit lower than a used car salesman, which is above a drug dealer pervert. Whatever.
Just barely, right?
Barely. So because as I constantly tried to tell my students, you might not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you, because it wants your money, it wants your vote, and it wants your money, and it wants you to give them power. and consequently, they will take your liberty if necessary. Okay, and so it is imperative. And of course, most people want their government just to leave them alone, which is commendable. And of course, I firmly believe that the best government governs least.
Yeah.
However, the reality is that you put power in someone its hands, and what good is it if they don't use it?
Right.
And so they will use it. And so we have to be careful who we give that power to. And that is the genius of the system that we have. Unfortunately, as we have seen in recent history, and of course, in recent history, we have seen power gravitate toward the government, and particularly the national government, in an area that when I was young, I would never have comprehended as being possible. But then again, when we look at the division of the country and the animosity, I would point out that it dates to 1824. When the Democrats, in 1824, the election of 1824 was an incredibly bitter one, because John Quincy Adams was elected president, but he came in second in the first vote, and he came in second in the popular vote, and he came in second in the Electoral College vote. But neither he or Andrew Jackson or Henry Clay had enough to have a majority. So the election went to the House of Representatives. And Henry Clay, who was really a nationalist Republican. At that time, there was only one political party, the Republican Party of Thomas Jefferson. But they had split into the National Republicans and the Democrat Republicans. And Andrew Jackson was the Democrat Republican candidate. Well, John Quincy Adams was the nationalist candidate. Okay, and by the way, the nationalist Republicans eventually become the Whigs, and the Democrat Republicans eventually become the Democrats. And the Whigs ultimately do become the Republican Party of today. Okay, just for a thematic history of the American political party. But that election, when it was settled in the House of Representatives, John Quincy Adams won.
Right.
Andrew Jackson claimed he had been cheated.
Right.
Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I see us going down this road here in the coming weeks.
And so Andrew Jackson spent the next 4 years doing nothing but attacking the John Quincy Adams presidency and all of his followers. Does that sound familiar? Okay. And the result was that in 1828, Andrew Jackson was elected president. Okay. And the Democrat Party was born. Now, personally, I would offer to you that the difference between what was the Democrats of Andrew Jackson and every Democrat candidate since versus the Whigs who eventually become the Republicans is that the Republicans, which was, by the way, was founded on freeing the concept of freeing the slavery, has attempted to appeal to the better angels of our nature, to appeal to things that would do the most for the most people in America, while the Democrats appeal to the baser instincts of mankind. Okay, I'll give you something. The Democrats have been promising to give things to people ever since Andrew Jackson.
All the way back to then.
Sure.
And by the way, not to change your thought, is that why I've seen some people write about the last time an election was contested this way was back then?
Okay. Actually, that's not true. 1876 with Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel Tilden was settled in the House of Representatives also.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, actually, what happened was in that election in 1876, there were 19 electoral college votes, states that sent in two sets of returns, Republican and Democrat. So Congress could not decide which set of and of course this is in the post Reconstruction era, okay, post-Civil War era, and it was Florida was the key state involved. Does that sound familiar
Yeah,
too?
yeah.
Okay, and with the two sets of returns, they had to decide a commission. They decided a commission of 15 people, 7 Republicans, 7 Democrats, and 1 allegedly neutral guy, a judge, who, unfortunately for everyone, he died, and so they had to replace him.
Wow.
And they replaced him with a Republican, and the Republicans voted 8-7 to give the those electoral college votes, which were necessary for Richard B. Hayes to be elected president, and he was.
Did he die of natural causes?
Richard B. Hayes?
No,
no,
the judge.
Who knows? That's a good question. As far as I know, he was not associated with the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
Oh, just saying. Okay.
Yeah. John, I absolutely loved the history lesson. I want to dig into a little bit about you jumping into politics originally, and kind of what it's meant for you. And I want to bounce back and forth with history too, because I think there's so many people that don't understand our history at any level, let alone some of the things that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I find in the Montana House of Representatives that there are surprising numbers of people on both sides of the aisle. It doesn't, that have no real understanding of American politics. They may know Montana better, and they know their constituents, and they know what their constituents want. But at the same time, they don't understand that really what we're seeing here is not new.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're seeing it on a scale never before accomplished. Okay, but it is not new.
Because we've never had the social media, the internet, and all these, the iPhone and all these tools we have to get information at a moment's notice.
Right.
But this isn't new.
Well, no, it's not new. For instance, I'll go back to the election of 1840. Okay, William Henry Harrison versus Martin Van Buren. Okay. William Henry Harrison was the first candidate and the only president to be elected by the Whig Party.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and William Henry Harrison, who was famous as a military hero of the Battle of Tippecanoe, the Republicans took a page out of the Democrats' book. They portrayed William Henry Harrison as the hero of Tippecanoe, while Andrew Jackson had been the hero of the Battle of New Orleans, and the hero. And of course, they passed out free jugs of whiskey to anybody that had come to the polls. Now, in those days, you didn't have secret ballots.
Yeah.
And each political party handed out its own ballot to someone. And they were different colors. So when you went to the polls and you cast your ballot, everyone knew who you voted for by the color of the ballot and who you took it from.
Wow. Okay.
Deposited it. So it was, there was intimidation involved. And, of course, hey, a free jug of moonshine, why not?
Can't beat that.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you're going to have elections, you have to do something, do everything possible to make those elections fair, free, and honest.
Yeah.
And sometimes that might be an oxymoron in modern politics, as well as ancient politics.
Yeah. You touched on something a few minutes ago. I interviewed Major Williams last week, who's running for governor in California on the next race, and he said, same as you about, politics needs us, but the one thing that he did say is the politicians in office want you to believe that you can't run and intimidate you so that you don't run because they want to hold that power for themselves. And it keeps people like him from jumping into politics, or people like me to say, well, I probably don't qualify. And he said the truth is that we all matter and can qualify to do some of these jobs. And I just liked hearing his perspective about how they're trying to keep you out because they want to hold the power, right?
Well, that may be so. Certainly is intimidating, especially when you look at the amount of money that is necessary. Back in 2016 in Montana, there was a Senate race, and I believe that the total amount spent by both senatorial candidates was $6 million.
Wow.
This last Senate campaign race here between former Governor Steve Bullock and incumbent Senator Steve Daines, I believe the total amount spent was $128 million.
Wow.
That's intimidating in
yeah.
a